much for being here. My name is Andrea, and I'm a speech pathologist. And I'm also 6 months pregnant, so I run out of breath really easily these days. So I apologize if I'm needing to breathe a lot. I'm sure many of you, being women, and Dr. Joe over there probably haven't experienced being pregnant, but any of you have children here?
Yep.
Excellent, thank you. If it's okay, I'll just ask a few questions just to get to know you all a little bit better. Is that okay? Right. So how many of you work with kids from like preschool, kindergarten to grade 2-ish? Great, yeah, lots. What about like upper elementary, grade to 6-ish? Okay, good. And what about junior high kiddos? Good. And high school. All right, so we've got the whole range of EAs here today. Wonderful. Are most of you EAs? Yes. Anyone not besides Dr. Joe? Okay, hi. Awesome, that's great. This morning we're focusing, because we only have 2 hours, we are focusing on the foundational skills, so on the phonological awareness. So generally, when we're talking about phono awareness, it's, you're thinking about preschool, kindergarten, grade 1, even grade 2. But I've found through the years that I've been working with kids with reading delays that, in grade 4, 5, 6, I'm getting referrals for kids in the upper elementary, even junior high, who have reading difficulties. And as part of my assessment, I always do a phonological awareness portion, and find that often those kiddos are missing the base skills. So we have to sometimes take it way down to the preschool, kindergarten level, really get them strong in those phono awareness skills, so the sound awareness. And once we get that, then we work our way up and eventually get them up to speed. How many of you have some knowledge already about phonological awareness? Okay. Anyone really, this is a new thing, haven't heard of it before? Well, that's good. Okay, good, thank you. We'll get intimate with phono awareness today. And if you have any questions along the way, just feel free to just ask questions. I'm always open to answering. And if we're talking about something that you have had experience with and success with, please share, because I'm always wanting to add things to my therapeutic tool belt. So feel free to contribute that way. That'd be great. In talking about the therapeutic tool belt that John had mentioned this morning, he's an awesome dancer, singer, everything. I don't sing, and I'm not that great of a dancer. But what I do love is anything crafty. So at any time, I bring my love of crafts into my therapy sessions. So I love making cards, I love scrapbooking, I love coloring. I love back to school time because I always buy new markers for myself. And my 3-year-old, I say I'm buying them for him, but really they're for me. So at any time, I always bring that, my love of crafting into therapy. And when you're really passionate about something, it really shows, and the kids are more enthusiastic about it. So, would anybody like to share what's in your creative tool belt? Like what you are passionate about and what you love to do with the kids you work with? Don't be shy. Anyone? Oh, great. So, sorry, what's your name? Trina. Okay, Trina said she loves games. So can you share a little bit about?
I don't know. I suppose I always try to create a game that might make somebody want
Murray, and I like to build really big things. Like I made for our book fair. We had a safari theme, so then I made it into a big hunter with the camouflage stuff, and it's made out of paper mache, and I change it all the time to everything. Right now it's an oiler because we had I think it was in April, Tommy Banks come to our school, and so then I created that.
That's amazing.
That's the kind of stuff I like to do.
I'm sure the kids love it. Awesome.
And sometimes they get to help if they have time to, to help to decorate it.
That's wonderful. Did everybody hear in the back? Good. Awesome. Great. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share? Oh, yes.
I do recycled crafts.
Oh, awesome.
I have done crafts with kids for the last 30 years or more. In community and church type settings. And I'm doing it more in the school, different things.
Excellent. That's great. And what age range do you work with?
K to 6.
8 to 6. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Paula, who is the trauma therapist, she uses a lot of art therapy with the kids for trauma. But in any way that we can engage kids with their hands and just adding that extra modality of learning, it's just so good. It helps them to really ingrain what they're learning. Wonderful. Thank you. Yes. Hi.
I like to put on musical productions with my students,
Awesome.
and so this is with grade 3, 4. It's lots of fun. They enjoy it. I enjoy it. We perform for the parents and the rest of the school sometimes.
Excellent. Wonderful. Did everyone hear that about musical productions? That's great. Again, adding music, any form of art is great to help with the learning. Way to go. Awesome. And anybody else? Good? Okay. Awesome. Just another question. Did anybody as a child, feel free if you're not comfortable to answer this, you don't have to, but anybody as a child have a learning disability or having difficulty learning to read? Thank you. Yes. Awesome. Or anyone know someone who has a learning disability? Sure. Thank you. Well, if it's okay to share a little bit about myself, is that okay? Yeah. Okay. I was very fortunate not to have a learning disability as a child. I loved reading, and on family camping trips, we'd go for drives for 2 weeks. We'd go camping, and I would have a stack of books like this in the back seat that I would go through, and my sister's stack of books would probably be that big. But my best friend growing up had a learning disability and struggled in all areas, reading, math, anything in school. And so I kind of became her tutor. She lived 2 doors down, and we were playing together every single day anyway. So I'd help her out with the reading, and her dad was a music teacher, so we incorporated whatever we could into the reading practice. And I saw how she struggled, and she struggled through high school, and I never went to university because she always felt like she couldn't. And I, on the other hand, I had no difficulty. I was very fortunate, and my love of reading turned into my love of languages, and I went to university to study linguistics, and then eventually went into speech pathology. And I had originally gone into speech pathology wanting to help adults who had suffered from strokes and Alzheimer's, because my grandpa had a stroke, had difficulty communicating. My grandma, his wife, had Alzheimer's and was losing a lot of her functions, and especially communicating with having her loss of memory. So that's why I went into speech pathology, but kind of discovered my true passion was helping kids learn to read. And I didn't even know speech pathologists really did that, but we have a fairly sound knowledge of phonological awareness, and so that kind of became my passion. And so I'm very excited to share with you today. And I apologize if any of this is repetition for any of you, but please feel free to share your experiences and any questions, just please ask. Okay? So, without further ado, we'll start talking about basically learning to read and what it all involves. So, phonological awareness. There is a handout actually, sorry, I should mention. It's a fairly boring looking one with a lot of lines. There's also kind of a graphic of an umbrella. So, if you wanted to pull those out. Oh.
And the umbrella one is in the staple pack.
I think you're okay. I think you're okay. Okay. You don't have one?
The umbrella one's in your staples package.
In the middle. Oh, yes. Yes, I'm sorry. This I threw together at about midnight the day before we had to get it to Jody back. So sorry if it's a little out of order. Yes.
Yes, you do.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I believe the girl with the purple.
Kayla.
Kayla. She might. Oh, thank you so much. Okay. Anybody else need one? Just one. Okay. All right. So we'll kind of be hopping back and forth from the umbrella to the first page with all the lines. But for now, I'll just kind of give you a brief overview of the skills that kids actually need to become good readers. So if you want to draw this maybe on the back of your handout, if you want to, if you don't, that's okay too. So basically, from birth on, kids are learning language and they're learning from their parents who are speaking to them and very highly inflected voices, simpler language. They're really listening to the sounds. And as a baby, it's amazing. At a couple weeks old, babies can distinguish between the sounds of their language versus the sounds of foreign languages. They pick up that rhythm and the different sounds, and it's just amazing. You can actually see them turn to the language that they know versus foreign languages. So right from the beginning, they're learning to listen to sounds and attend to sounds, and the overall ability to understand that languages are made up of sentences, which can be broken down into words, which can be broken down into compound words, syllables, and eventually sounds. That is phonological awareness. Okay, so how many of you, oh yes, we already talked about this. So a lot of you have heard the term phonological awareness. How many of you have heard the term phonemic awareness? Is anybody confused between the two for phonological awareness, phonemic awareness? Yes, thank you. Every once in a while I have to go back to my textbooks and be like, what exactly is the difference? However, with the umbrella visual, thank you, you will see that actually, and we'll get into it, phonemic awareness is actually a part of phonological awareness. So at the top, basically, of your umbrella is phonological awareness. And that's basically the umbrella term for your knowledge of language and how it's broken up. So phonemic awareness is just one part. So you don't have to write anything about phonemic awareness yet. We'll get to that. But basically, phonemic awareness is the knowledge of the individual sounds. So a phoneme, anyone want to venture a guess what phoneme means?
Parts of a word?
Close. Even breaking it down even more. It's the, pardon me?
Is it the hearing of it?
But the phoneme itself, like phone is sound.
Sound.
Yes, exactly. And the phoneme is the smallest unit of language, which is the actual sound that we hear. So, p is a phoneme. B is a phoneme. L, ing, or I guess. Those are all phonemes. So, phonemic awareness is the ability to hear those individual sounds and play around with them, being able to segment words into individual sounds, and we'll get into all of those little sub-skills. But so that is, in a nutshell, phonological awareness, and phonemic awareness is a part of that. So that's kind of like our base knowledge. This is one key area that a child needs to have skills in to be a good reader. So who here has just a question about the difference between phonological awareness and phonics? Anyone sometimes get those two mixed up? I know I did. Teachers generally teach phonics, and I've found in my years of practice that often the phonological awareness is just assumed that kids know it, and teachers often just teach the phonics in the early grades. But you know, by grade 2, 3, some kids are having difficulty learning to read. If we go back here, they're often missing skills. So that's why we're really going to focus on this today. Sorry. But, so here's phonics. Very, very important part of learning to read. In fact, phonological awareness and phonics they found that those two things are those two areas of reading are the two most important factors of later reading success. So this is another passion of mine. I love teaching actual phonics, getting into the nitty-gritties of the two vowels together and the vowel digraphs and consonant digraphs and all that kind of stuff. But that's more like part 2. If the school division has us back, then we'll be really getting into the phonics next time around. Helen, there is a fun little visual called phonological awareness at the bottom. Go to a PDF. One more. One down. Thank you. So, phonemic awareness. You can do it in the dark. So, if you ever have questions between phonological or phonemic awareness versus phonics, just know that with phonemic awareness, you don't need any lights. It's all about hearing sounds and words, and so you can do it in the dark. Whereas with phonics, phonics is all about the letters. So tying in the letters, like A can say A or A, EA together says E. So that's phonics, whereas with phonological awareness, you don't need the lights to see the letters. So yeah, does that make sense, or does that confuse everybody? Make sense? Okay, awesome. Okay, so a third area, once this generally is taught, kindergarten to grade 3, or kindergarten to grade 2, and once kids are starting to be able to make that connection between the letters and the sounds, which is called decoding or graphemic awareness, they're starting to get better at reading, and so that's when fluency comes in. So reading fluency. So I haven't done actually a lot of reading fluency rehabilitation, I guess, but I've done a lot of research into it, and some of the strategies teachers tend to use are reader's theater, so getting the inflection and rate and that sort of thing, getting kids really familiar with the rate of reading. And fun little fact, by the end of, let's say grade 12, I think, sorry, this isn't very able to read at 100 words per minute. So, yeah, so you can definitely see our struggling students. They're just struggling here and here. So, fluency, that's going to take a while. And then, from fluency, once kids are more fluent, they are starting to read for information, and their vocabulary is starting to grow by leaps and bounds. So you can see if kids are struggling to learn or struggling just to decode, to read, they're not getting all that information that fluent readers are getting. Just a quick question. How many of you, when you are reading something you're really interested in, are making a picture in your mind? Especially if it's a particularly steamy novel or something like that. You're reading and you're making a movie in your mind, and you're able to understand that vocabulary. Kids who are not doing that, like they're not learning vocabulary as fast as the other kids who are. So you're seeing that gap of knowledge between the child who can read really well versus the child who can't. You're seeing that gap widen, unfortunately. So, yes. So I received a package of 3 very interesting steamy novels this summer. I'm sure you know which ones I'm talking about. Haven't gotten into them yet to make the movies in my mind. which would be reading comprehension. So understanding basically what you're reading. And I would love to spend a whole day talking about reading comprehension strategies. Have any of you heard of the Linda Mood Bell program called Visualizing and Verbalizing? Have any of you actually taken the training? Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? Yes. Have you been able to incorporate any of that into your? Awesome. How about you? Have you used it?
I did for a time, but now I'm not doing it. Somebody else in our school does.
It is called Visualizing and Verbalizing. If there's any way that the school system would support, more people being trained in that, well, that would be amazing. Basically, it's a step-by-step approach of teaching kids how to understand what they're reading. Of course, they have to be stronger in these areas, but making pictures in their mind and being able to take still photos. You start like with teaching the meanings of single words and then phrases, and eventually up to paragraphs where they're reading, they're making pictures in their mind, and they're able to understand what they're reading. It's pretty cool. So that's a really, really neat program if anyone's interested. And it's through Linda Mood Bell, Bell. Those are 2 ladies, Patricia Linda Mood and Pat Bell, I think, or maybe the
Is
other
one
way
of them
around.
Nancy?
Nancy, yes, Nancy Bell. Pat, who's Pat? Who's Linda? Linda Mood. Okay, Pat, Linda Mood, and Nancy Bell. Okay, so so they developed this program. One was a reading specialist, and one was a speech pathologist, and they combined their knowledge and made that program. But also, I was lucky enough to attend a workshop that really focuses on this area called Seeing Stars. Has anybody had the privilege of attending that? Oh, okay. It's all about visualizing the letters and visualizing what sounds they make in order to become better decoders. So that's a pretty cool program too, if anyone is able to attend that. So I wish I could be spending 2 whole days on these areas and teaching you the strategies, but hopefully in part 2 we'll be able to do that. So does anyone have any questions about kind of the 5 areas, or feel like I'm missing anything? Any comments? All right. well, then we will just delve right into phonological awareness and become really intimate with it, if you will. Okay, so looking at your umbrella, so we already talked about the umbrella being the phonological awareness. Awareness. Okay. So, and again, I'm sorry we have to jump back and forth from the umbrella to page 1. But if anybody, did you all kind of get a definition for what phonological awareness was? That was kind of number 1, or part 1 is phonological awareness. Yeah, so part 1, we're talking about phonological awareness. And what it is the general knowledge of language. So that sentences can be broken down into words. Words can be broken down into syllables and compound words. And then those words can be broken down into their individual sounds. Would anyone else would like me to repeat that? Or? Yes. Again? Okay. So, general knowledge of language, that sentences can be broken down into words. And then words can be broken down into syllables. Compound words. When we're teaching about syllables, we generally throw in compound words. They go quite nicely together. And then syllables and compound words can be broken down into their individual sounds. So we've got sentences broken down to words, then broken down to syllables and compound words, and then sounds. How's that? Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So let me draw handles. Okay. So we're going to talk about each individual skill in phonological awareness and break them down. Just talk about them in general, and then I have a whole bunch of activities that, if it's okay with everybody, we're going to break off into groups and kind of learn those individual skills and activities that can go with them, and then teach it back to your peers, if that's okay. I find that that kind of teaching is really helpful. So if anyone has any major objections to that? Okay, awesome. Okay, so so our first phonological awareness skill or sub-skill would be words in sentences. So the ability to hear a sentence
words broken down to syllables.
Right, yes, thank you very much. So syllables and compound words. Yeah, I might just put that on here. This is getting a little squishy. To make sure not to use permanent markers on here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. So if I said to a child, tell me all the parts of words, or how many parts of the word helicopter do you hear? The child doesn't have a good knowledge of syllables. They might say helicopter, one, or helicopter. You know, there are a lot of kids who just don't know that words can actually be broken into parts. So helicopter, or some teachers teach helicopter, helicopter has 4 syllables. And like any skill that we're going to talk about, there is a kind of a hierarchy of difficulty that we teach. So, so this was sentences. This is compound words and syllables. We can break it down even further into first teaching what a 1-syllable word sounds like. So dog has 1 part, 2 syllables. Carrot has 2 parts. And so on and so on. 3, 4, 5, etc. And compound words generally have 2 syllables, at least the ones that I always teach. Rainbow. Anyone know a compound word that doesn't have 2 syllables, that has more? Oh, thank you. Yes, okay. Bookkeeper, that definitely has more. But this compound words is basically the knowledge of 2 small words come together and make a bigger word. Thank you. I'm also having word finding issues these days, so I apologize if I'm stalling. I'm visualizing the word. Yeah. So, okay, so that's this part right here. Our third sub-skill is onset rhyme. And in this case, rhyme is R-I-M-E, not R-H-Y-M-E. Anyone familiar with onset rhyme, what that means? Basically, it's a fancy way of saying that words can be broken down into their beginning sound and the ending part of the word. So let's say the word cat. If you draw a line down, is the onset, at is the rhyme. So when we're teaching kids to learn to rhyme, we first teach onset rhyme and how to play around with these. So at, at. These are the different onsets, but the rhyme always stays the same for rhyming words.
Is that what they call word families?
Yes. Working within word families is a really great way to teach kids how to rhyme. Of course, with phonological awareness and phonemic awareness, which you can do in the dark, this is actually more of a phonics task, which, you know, I do bring in some letters when I'm teaching this, just because it gives them a visual of how rhymes can change. Because I find rhyming is really hard for some kids. Anyone have this experience? So sometimes just the sound alone, especially if they're not auditory learners, we really need to bring in some visuals for that. So this isn't pure phonological awareness if we are bringing in letters, but sometimes you just have to, and to be creative too. Any question about that? Okay. All right, and our fourth sub-skill, which is still on this side of the umbrella, is actual rhyme. Oh, sorry. Did someone start writing? Oh, do you want some whiteout? Okay. I do have some. I'm sorry. I forgot to mention that. So, actual rhyme. So, at around age 3, typically developing kids start to rhyme. So, my son, who is 3 and a half, is starting to try to rhyme, and we don't want to teach them words that rhyme with truck, but he's been playing around with that because he loves trucks. So, you know, so we've been really, yeah, no reaction if one comes up that isn't appropriate. It's, yes, that rhymes. What else can we rhyme with truck? So, anyway, so part of learning to rhyme, we have well, actually, you know, we have 3 different areas that we can teach with rhyme. So in any kind of language task, we always teach the receptive portion first, so understanding, and if they're able to understand the task, then their expressive ability is going to be stronger, right? Because if they don't understand the task, they're not going to be able to produce a rhyme. So if I would say, what's a word that rhymes with cat? If they don't have a good understanding of what rhyme is, they might say dog. You know, they're associating a cat with a dog, but they don't really get what rhyme is. So we're always going to work on rhyme discrimination first. So basically teaching them, after they have a better understanding of this, they should be able to discriminate between 2 words, whether they rhyme or don't rhyme. So if I would say, I'm going to say 2 words, and you tell me if they rhyme or not. So, cat, dog. Pig, pig. So basically, being able to understand which ones rhyme and which ones don't. There's also another task called, sorry, it's getting in the way, rhyme judgment. So these two kind of often go together. It's hard to really discriminate which one is discrimination and judgment. Often I get the 2 kind of mixed up and I just do them all together. But for example, with judgment, giving kids a list of 3 words, 2 of them rhyme and 1 doesn't. So it might be a task called odd man out. For example, I give them a piece of paper, and when they hear the odd man out, they raise their piece of paper. So I would say pig, fig, cat. Which one is the odd man out? Which one doesn't sound the same? So that would be rhyme judgment. Any questions about those? Yes.
Excuse me, on the handout here, are these the ones that we're putting 4, 5, and 6 for? Or did we?
Sorry about that. So rhyme is sub-skill number 4. And I'm sorry.
And 5 is rhyme judgment?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't make that very clear. Just kind of beside rhyme, which is sub-skill number 4, if you just want to maybe put in brackets, judgment, discrimination. Sorry about that. But thank you for the question to clarify. Okay, so again, just to clarify, so sub-skill number 1 was the sentence, words and sentences. So sub-skill Whiteout. Anyone? So that was sub-skill number 1. Compound words and syllables was sub-skill number 2. Number 3 was onset rhyme. And then number 4 is rhyme. And then kind of in brackets we have rhyme discrimination, rhyme judgment, and then rhyme production. Is that okay? Does that make sense? Thank you very much for bringing that up. So rhyme production then is basically being able to produce a rhyme. So if I were reading hop on pop or something, I might say, what's a word that rhymes with hop? Pop. What's a rhyme that, or a word that rhymes with sock? Lock. And when we're doing rhyme, I often encourage like silly nonsense words, because if a child is able to produce a nonsense word, for example, pig, for a word that rhymes with pig, that really shows me that their knowledge or their understanding of that is clear. It's not just a rote word that, or task that they've just heard in class so many times, like the cat in the hat. They know cat, hat, rhyme. So yeah, so any nonsense words that come out, even if they don't make sense, but they rhyme, that's a good thing. Yeah, I encourage that. Okay, so is everybody okay in this area? So now I'd like to move to the right of the umbrella. So here we have rhyme, and then this one was onset rhyme. Now we get to phonemic awareness. So that's it, sub-skill number 5. Phonemic awareness. So as I mentioned before, when we're talking about the difference between phonological awareness and phonemic awareness, phonological awareness is the general understanding of words and sentences and sounds, but phonemic awareness is the ability to really attend to those different sounds of the language. So we'll talk about all the skills that fall under this. So phonemic awareness, to give you a better definition, I'm pretty sure I wrote them down. So it's the knowledge of sounds, which are, in brackets, sounds, phonemes. And the ability to manipulate and play with those sounds. So they're hearing sounds, they are able to pick out the sounds where in the word they are, they're able to break sounds down into, or words down into individual sounds, blend them together to make words. We'll get into those sub-skills of sub-skill number 5. Is it okay if I erase this? Everybody okay with that? Okay. Helen, can you give me a little time? Okay, awesome. Great, okay, right on track. Okay, so, oh boy, that is a permanent marker. Good thing I caught that. Okay, so here's phonemic awareness. So our ability to attend to sounds and understand that sounds have meaning. So under there, so let me make sure. Okay, A. Under number 5, we have A sub-skill. That would be phoneme isolation. one sound in a word. So if I would say to a child, what is the first sound you hear in the word flower? What is the first sound you hear in, or let's say, what is the last sound you hear in the word earth? If they don't have their TH, they might say earth. But hopefully they could say, isolate that it is. What's the middle sound you hear in the word soup? Ooh. So that is phoneme isolation. And like any skill, there is a hierarchy of difficulty. So we always want to start with the easiest, and that would be initial sound or beginning sound. So what's the first sound you hear in cat? And often kids will say C, because they already know how to spell cat. They've memorized that, but you really want to focus on the sounds. So you would acknowledge that, like, oh, yeah, right, cat starts with a C. And C makes what sound? And if they're, smarty pants, they might say, and S. But for that word, we would say, the first sound is, and I always get them to repeat it. Okay, so first sound in cat is, right, good. All right. The next easiest to isolate is the ending sound. So final sound. So generally when I'm teaching this skill, we'll start with initial sounds. When they're able to do that really well, like let's say 8 out of 10 times, then we'll move to final sound. So what's the last sound you hear in cat? Right, very, very good. What's the last sound you hear in flower? Right. We don't have a lot of time to talk about R-controlled vowels today, but the ER, AR, IR, OR, UR, those are really tricky for kids. So anyway, we can incorporate phonemic awareness into, like with R and and OR words. That's good. That's getting their ability to hear these sounds primed for when we're actually teaching the R-controlled vowels. Anyone have children that they work with who have real difficulty with the actual letters with the R-controlled vowels? Yeah, I find that these are just tricky because the vowel changes depending on the R. Well, the R changes the vowel. So yeah, just a little fun fact there. And finally, teaching phoneme isolation, we go to middle sounds. Middle sounds. Does anyone have experience working with kids who really, when they're learning to spell, have difficulty with vowels? Yeah. So working on listening to the middle sound, which is normally a vowel, is again getting them primed for being able to spell and to read vowel words or vowels in words. So so what's the middle sound you hear in soup? Ooh, right. So they're hearing sounds you hear in the word B, but E. And then we move to 3 sounds. So, for example, tell me the 3 sounds you hear in the word pen. P, E, N. And then 4 sounds. And then so on and so on. You can get up to however excited the child is to segment. You can keep going and going. But generally we work up to like 5, 6 sounds. And once they have about 80% here, so 8 out of 10 times they can do the task, move on to the next. 8 out of 10 times they can do this, then we move on to 4 sounds, and so on. So an example of a trickier one would be anything with a consonant blend. So plants, l, a, n, t, s. So that's 6 sounds. So again, learning to segment consonant blend, so the 2 consonants together, or sometimes 3 consonants together, will really get them primed for spelling later on, making sure they include each letter in the words. Any of you work with kids who often will like leave out 1 or 2? Yeah, they might just not have a great understanding of the ability to segment words. Yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah. The vowel silent E. Right. That is definitely more of the phonics. So for that, you really need to teach the skills explicitly, like the phonics skills. So here, I'll just go over here. This can be our phonics board. So this is the Seeing Stars program that I talked about. So let's say EA or OA, spelling words like that. These are called vowel digraphs, so 2 vowels together, and they make 1 sound. So in this instance, you might want to teach when 2 vowels go a walk-in, the first one does the talk-in. Helen, we have a little video there. Do you want to pull it up? So any way that you can incorporate music and rhyme and that sort of thing. Yeah, this one is good. Helen.
Vowel, team, TV.
I'll give you a resource list too afterwards, but so if we're doing phonics, this is something that you might want to talk about.
The first vowel does the talking. A. Made. When vowel T's go
We'll do watch
walking,
one more.
the first vowel does the talking. E. Team.
Thanks, Helen. Okay, so that's one example. So those would be the vowel digraphs. So, that's vowel digraphs. Even though we're not really doing phonics today so much, I'll give you a few quick visuals that you can take to your students who are having difficulty in this area. I'm going to give you a few fun visuals. So, vowel digraphs. 2 vowels together. This is what I show my students to help them remember. And you can just write this in the back on any paper. I don't have a space for it. And if you get your kids to actually draw them themselves and and use as much color as you can. I don't know if I have a blue. Ah, yes. Of course I have blue. yellow, I would do this in yellow. And so, sail, to help them remember the AI. So one, the first vowel does the talking. So sail, A. So most words, the English language is wonky, as I'm sure you all know. They don't always follow the rules, so there are always those exceptions. So if a child would come up and say, oh, well, can't think of a word right now, but this word doesn't follow this rule, you can always make a list of exceptions for them to help them remember. So sail. Moon. Ooh, two O's together usually say ooh, except in book, look, took, but for the most part. So OO is a vowel digraph, AI is a vowel digraph, C, EA is a vowel digraph, and boat, OA is a vowel digraph. And then you could draw an eyeball for C. So incorporating these visuals into kids' learning will really help them solidify. So if you're working on words like AI words in their spelling, you can just remember that picture that you drew with the boat and the sea and the, what was that part, the top part? Oh yeah, sail. And sail, what are the two vowel sound, or the two vowels in there? AI, oh yeah. And what does the AI say? Remember the two vowels go walking. Oh, A, okay. So giving them this visual to really help solidify those two vowels together, plus like a song or like a video will really help them to remember that. And I find too, like with kids, they need really like a lot of repetition on this. So I might just first do ooh words. Just get really, really good at reading those ooh words. You can have a visual. I did bring all my phonics stuff because I knew that these questions would come up. Let's see. This is again part of Seeing Stars program. Okay, of course I can't find my ooh right now, but okay, this is OA. So in like Seeing Stars with the visualization, we would hold this up and do really explicit teaching. So OA, okay, it follows the two vowels rule. OA says O, as the first vowel says its name. So OA says, good. Now let's write that in the air. So we get the students, and I encourage you to do this. Okay, write OA. So OA says O. Okay, now you show me. So write OA in the air. Good, good. And what does OA say? Oh, good job. And then we would do lots and lots of reading with the OA words. Get them really strong on that. And we wouldn't move on to the next one until they got that ingrained in their heads. And then, you know, once they do, then we might move on to the EE. EE is generally easy. Kids know this one, but then we would say, okay, now we have another vowel pair. EE. EE says E. Okay, so what does EE say? E. Good. Now I want you to write it in the air. EE says E. Good, good. And then we practice with lots and lots of EE words. Card, and say, you know, when you see these three, so IGH, when you see these three together, they say I. Okay, so we have IGH. What does it say? Right. Okay, so let's write IGH in the air. IGH says good, good. Now let's practice some words that have IGH. So sigh, hi. We might throw in nonsense words there too, just to really get them. We might have like a bunch of cards that have bye, hi, kai. words in there is okay. It really gets them to focus on this without it being a sight word like sigh. They might have seen a million times and they have that, it just as a sight word in their brain. So if you're working on nonsense words, that one's real, but then they really get that pattern. Silent E is another one. So with silent E, it's quiet and it makes the vowel say its name. So sometimes if it's a little boy, we often say, oh, silent E, like, bonks the vowel on the head and makes it say its name, you know, so you can do any kind of visual to help them understand. So there's that. But any kind of spelling pattern that doesn't really make sense in our language, we teach them explicitly, and we do a lot of the visualization and lots of practice too. Like every day I'd pull this out. Okay, let's work on our IGH words. What does IGH say? I. Let's visualize it. Let's spell it in the air. IGH. What does that say? I. Yeah. So a lot of that explicit practicing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for the question. I'm wondering. What's my other? Okay, lost my train of thought. I'm going to leave that up there and give you some more visuals as we go on. Okay, so back to our phonemic awareness side. We are into, has everyone written this down? Can I do a little bit of erasing? Okay. Is this okay, everybody? Yeah, okay. Feel free to yell no. You still need it. Or I can put it back on. Okay, so I guess sub-skill C would be phoneme blending. Actually, you know what, I'm just going to keep segmenting. And this was isolation. Because basically, blending and segmenting often go together. Blending phonemes is the opposite of segmenting. So segmenting, we were getting the children to break up words. So us is made up of us. Whereas the blending task, they'll be really good at this. So if I say to the child, tell me what word I'm saying. Put those together and what do we get? Us. How about the word or the sounds? I'm going to give you 3 sounds now. What word do you hear? Hen. That's right. Thank you. You know what? That actually triggers a memory. Anybody have children they work with who have difficulty distinguishing between and it? So short E and short I. Buggers. I know. Yeah, that is a very troublesome concept for kiddos. So short E versus short I. So it. They can get like and short O is aw, and ooh, or oops, sorry, that's long. That's short U. Those ones are really easy for kids because kids learn through sight and sound. If you look at my mouth, is way open. Aw is way open. Is way open. My mouth looks the same. The only difference is the tongue tension, really. So oftentimes when kids aren't really able to spell short E and short I sounds, it's because they don't really have the ability to distinguish the sound. So, so in this case, you might want to throw in a lot of short E and short I words to practice with. So, and always throwing in pictures is a good idea too. So, for example, this is a,
Hey,
thank you. Hey,
you're welcome.
thanks. Okay, the pig in the middle sound in pig is eh. Okay, so what's the middle sound in pig? That's right. And I might throw in, even though it's phonological awareness, I still would throw in the letter so that they're getting that awareness. And then, what's a good word in the middle of It could be, how about pen? That looks like a pencil, but we'll put on a little handle thingy there. Okay, so pen. What's the middle sound you hear in pen? Right. So what's the middle sound you hear in cake? And the middle sound in pen? Yeah. So giving them a visual, and they can draw their own pig and their own pen or whatever their and words would be, would get that those the sound awareness stronger, so that when they are spelling, they should be able to hear the sounds different and have a visual reference, so they should be able to spell better and read better. Yeah, those and those are unfair. And again, like with segmenting, we start with 2 sounds, then 3 sounds, 4 sounds, and so on. So if I would say, I'm going to say a bunch of sounds, and I want you to put them together and make a word. I want you to blend them together. Flick. Right. Good job. How about please. Very good, very good. So start with the 2 sounds, go on to 3 sounds, 4 sounds, and so on. But often you can work on these together. So if we're segmenting a word, so tell me all the sounds you hear in cat. So they would be good. So you broke them apart. Now let's blend them back together, and what word do we get? Cat. Good. So those are those kind of tasks. And then our last little sub-skill. So this would be D. It's kind of a 3-part. There is addition. Phoneme. Addition. Substitution. And deletion. So, in this case, we'd probably have, let's say, colored blocks or colored, or bingo chips or whatever. For a phoneme addition task, we would start with 2 sounds, and I would say, this says s. So that word is good. Now we're going to add a sound. This sound says b. So what might this word be? B, s. Excellent. And that word is bus. Good. Now, for a substitution task, we might say, okay, we're going to take away the s sound and put in, what do we need? We're going to put in a t sound. So we get b, t. Good. And that word is but. Good. Let's take it away. Okay, this will be a nonsense word. another eh. What do we get? Eh. Pin. So with this kind of task, we definitely would start with using visual manipulatives. So they might have little blocks on the table that you can move around to help them remember the sounds we're working on. But when they're good with that, you should be able to just say a word, take away the eh, put the eh in. What do you get? Okay, take away the put in the g. What do you get? So they should be able to do it just auditorily towards the end. So that is phonemic awareness and phonological awareness in a nutshell. Does anyone need like a 5 minute? Oh, how many minutes do we have? It's 12? Okay, so we have 45 minutes, which will be perfect for the activities portion. Should we just take like a stretch break, bathroom break, grab a coffee or drink? Okay, so meet back here like no later than 10 minutes? Yes. Right. Okay. Oh, we have a few more coming. Maybe I'll just kind of start and then maybe you can fill in your colleagues when they come back. It was brought to my attention that I didn't do an awesome job at teaching the difference between the addition, substitution, and deletion, and I apologize for that. I think I focused on addition and substitution a lot, but maybe didn't explain deletion very well. So I'm just going to give you another example of deletion. So that is taking out a sound. So, for example, if we have the word plug, so we might start with plug. So, g, plug. Let's take away let's take the out of there. And what do we get? Pug, like the dog Pug. Okay, let's try. Yeah, for these we need more like consonant letters, right? So we're going to be working on words that are a little bit longer. So I can't think off the top of my head what's an easy consonant blend word.
Swing.
Swing. Thank you. S, w, e, ng. Let's take away the w, and what do we get?
Sing.
Sing, right. Ing, good. Does that make more sense? Okay, sorry about that. I think I went over that really quickly and didn't explain it very well. So, yeah, so that's deletion. So, if everyone's ready, maybe we'll break into groups of 2, if that works. We have an odd number, then we'll have a group of 3. And we'll start doing some practicing of actual phonological awareness tasks. And then we'll maybe take about 10 minutes to learn the tasks and then be the teachers and teach your colleagues. Is that okay? Okay, so I've got a bunch of activities. Okay, do we all have a partner